Uh, okay. First, I would like to thank Professor Jesse and Professor Dr. Lai for providing me such an opportunity to introduce my studies to you. And the topic I'll discuss today is bridge model identification using vehicular sensing approach. Before the technical presentation, I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Xudong Jian, a PhD student at Tongji University, Shanghai, China. And currently, I'm visiting the National University of Singapore. My background is civil engineering, particularly bridge engineering, and my research interest is structural health monitoring. Okay, let's get back to the topic of today's presentation. As you may know, China is now experiencing a massive construction of infrastructures. By the end of last year, there are a huge amount of bridges in China, among which most are short and medium span bridges. For these bridges, there is a vast demand for structural assessment or maintenance. When we talk about the bridge structural assessment, a common and familiar scenario is the engineering practice of the structural health monitoring on large-scale bridges. As this figure shows, the traditional structural health monitoring technique deploys an electronic system on the bridge, including sensors, wires, sampling instruments, and then we use the data recorded by the system to do structural assessment. However, when it comes to short and medium span bridges, this method is inapplicable to the short and medium span bridges because small bridges are too many to deploy an electronic system on every bridge. Therefore, we need a new assessment approach for those bridges. Fortunately, a concept called vehicular sensing seems quite suitable for the assessment of small bridges. This concept uses an instrumented vehicle as a highly mobile sensor to indirectly measure the vibration of bridge structures. Since there is no need to deploy any sensor on the bridge, the vehicular sensing approach has the potential to fast inspect bridges in large quantities. This flowchart illustrates the vehicular sensing approach. As we can see, there are two subsystems. There are bridge system and vehicle system. Because of external loads, the bridge will vibrate, and then the bridge vibration will cause the sensing vehicle vibrate as well. So the vibration of sensing vehicle will contain the bridge vibration component. However, other excitation resources such as road roughness, engine vibration, passenger load, and wind load, they will also cause the sensing vehicle vibrate. So the first task of vehicular sensing is to extract the bridge vibration component from the measured vehicle responses. Then the second task is to identify bridge parameters from the extracted bridge vibration component. And this is the framework of the vehicular sensing approach. Over the last decade, there have been a lot of studies on the vehicular sensing, but they're still facing some challenges. The first challenge is the oversimplified modeling. Most studies are based on a beam bridge model and a quarter car model, which I think cannot fully reproduce the vehicle bridge interaction. So I did some refined simulation in my studies. Second, many studies are experiencing difficulties in the extraction of desired bridge vibration components from the measured vehicle responses. So I proposed some new methods to get the components we need in my studies. Third, but not least, most studies on the vehicular sensing are based on theoretical analysis or numerical simulation. There is a lack of experimental verification. So I carried out some experiments on real bridges with a real car. And the first part of my work starts with two-dimensional simulation. Here, two-dimensional means the bridge is three-dimensional, but the vehicle is two-dimensional. I conducted a case study based on a real bridge of Shanghai Urban Expressway, and the bridge is modeled with finite element method. A model analysis was carried out first, and these are the first 3 modes of the bridge. In terms of vehicles, I designed a unique vehicle which consists of 1 tractor and 3 sensing trailers. The tractor is a normal truck used to tow the sensing trailers and excite the bridge. There is no sensor on the tractor. The sensing trailer only have 1 axle, and they are instrumented with accelerometers. This design provides many benefits, including the elimination of the road roughness. I will introduce this important concept later. Simulation of the road roughness is also crucial to the simulation of vehicle-bridge interaction. And here I simulated the road roughness according to the international standard. The bridge model and the vehicle model are assembled with an assumption that wheels and road surface are closely contacted. Then I simulated a numerical case as this diagram shows. The simulation was done in MATLAB with the Newmark data method. Here come the simulation results of the vehicle bridge interaction. Both the figures and the GIF indicate the results quite reasonable for a bridge for vehicle bridge interaction. Then I did some analysis in the frequency domain. By observing the power spectral density of the acceleration signal of both the bridge structure and the sensing trailer, we can find that bridge modal parameters cannot be directly identified from the raw vehicle acceleration. Why? The comparison between the amplitudes of the acceleration of sensing trailer in 2 different cases tell us the reason. In the left case, the road roughness is ignored, and in the right case, the road roughness is considered. As you can see, acceleration on the left is significantly smaller than the right, which indicates that vehicle vibration is mainly caused by the road roughness. Therefore, it is necessary to eliminate the road roughness effects before we do the bridge modal identification. So I tried to eliminate the road roughness effects on the sensing trailer. So elimination process is illustrated here. These equations look complicated, but the idea is actually very simple. Here I use an observation that 2 adjacent axles will pass by a same point on the road with a time lag. Since the road roughness on the same point is a constant, so subtracting accelerations of the 2 adjacent axles with a time lag can theoretically eliminate the road roughness. This figure illustrates the results of the elimination of road roughness. After the elimination, we can find that the residual trailer acceleration is quantitatively similar to the bridge acceleration. I think that means the road roughness is successfully eliminated. Then the time frequency spectrum can be obtained by implementing the wavelet transform on the residual acceleration. Then we slice the spectrum on time dimension, we can identify the frequency of the bridge. Subsequently, according to the wavelet-based model analysis theory, I proposed a method to identify bridge modal shapes in an iterative way. The identification results of the first 3 modal shapes are plotted here. As you can see, the identified modal shapes of high accuracy and spatial resolution compared with the modal shapes obtained by finite element method. Then sensitivity analysis is conducted to investigate the stability of the proposed method in different road roughness levels, different vehicle speeds, and different noise levels. Results indicate that the proposed method is insensitive to the road roughness, but it is sensitive to the vehicle speeds and noise levels. For comparison, I also display some mode shapes identified by other studies. In this slide, as you can see, my identification results performs better. So in this section, I proposed a method to identify bridge frequencies and mode shapes from the acceleration of vehicles. And the method has advantages over other studies. But you may ask, does this method really work in engineering practice? Unfortunately, my answer is no. This method is inherently too sensitive to noise because of the iterative multiplication when identifying the mode shapes. Also, it requires 3 sensing trailers. As you know, towing 3 sensing trailers on the road is not very practical. And last but not least, in the simulation, the vehicle is 2-dimensional, but the real vehicles are all 3-dimensional. So I think there is still a gap between the 2D simulation and the 3D simulation. Therefore, next, I decide to carry out another 3D numerical simulation. And there is a seldom researcher using a 3D simulation to study the vehicular sensing. And in this simulation, the bridge is simulated with a 3D plate element model. According to the model analysis, the first 3 modes of the bridges are displayed here. And the vehicle is simulated with a 3D full car model, which has 7 degrees of freedoms. The vehicle model's equations of motion are shown here. There are 7 equations in total. As you can see, compared with the 2D vehicle model, the 3D vehicle model is much more complicated because this vehicle has more degrees of freedoms and more parameters. To conduct a numerical simulation, these equations are rewritten in matrix form. And in the simulation, I use 2 vehicles. The small vehicle shown here is a car used for vehicular sensing. And the large vehicle is a truck used to excite the bridge. Parameters of the 2 vehicles are shown in the table. Accordingly, the road roughness is also simulated with a 3D, in a 3D form. The 3D road roughness surface is assumed to be isotropic, which means it has uniform physical properties in all directions, as the right figure shows. Similar to the 2-dimensional simulation, the vehicle and the bridge are also assembled with the assumption that wheels and the road surface are closely contacted. Then a case study is carried out and the simulation results are visualized here. Also, as you can see, the time history curves and the GIF here show the simulation results are reasonable for a vehicle bridge interaction system. So by observing the power spectral density of the bridge acceleration and the vehicle acceleration, we can know that once again, bridge modal parameters cannot be identified directly from the vehicle acceleration. So similar to the two-dimensional simulation, it is imperative to first eliminate the road roughness effects before we do modal identification on bridges. To do so, we consider 2 adjacent wheels equation of motions. To eliminate the road roughness effects, I subtract the acceleration of the front wheel and the rear wheel. However, for a 3D vehicle model, the subtraction isn't as straightforward as the 2D model because we have to consider the interaction between the different wheels and the vehicle body. Moreover, subtracting the acceleration of front and rear wheels in time domain is very difficult because on the one hand, it is difficult to identify so many vehicle parameters. And on the other hand, I think it is difficult to measure the vibrating velocity and displacement of vehicles in practices. So In view of this, I proposed a subtraction method in frequency domain. First, I applied the Fourier transform on the wheels, equations of motions, and then I get the following equations. As you can see from the equations, the benefit of using frequency domain is that we only need to identify one comprehensive parameter of vehicles for subtraction. And the comprehensive parameter highlighted with the red box here, it looks quite like the frequency response function. And we know that the frequency response function can be easily identified in some modal test. Subsequently, the road roughness effects can be eliminated by subtracting the above two equations with a time lag. This method is also verified with the data generated from the 3D simulation results. As you can see, the peaks regarding the bridge frequencies are clearly visible in the spectrum after the subtraction. And that means the bridge frequencies can be successfully identified from the acceleration of vehicles. Another problem is that in these two equations, the angular and vertical acceleration of the vehicle body are difficult to measure. However, I found that the frequency responses of vertical and angular acceleration of the vehicle body are much smaller than the wheel acceleration. So during the subtraction, we can basically ignore the angular and the vertical acceleration of the vehicle body, which means we can drop the term 2, or we only use the term 1 here. So as a summary of the 3D simulation, I proposed a method to identify bridge frequencies from the wheel acceleration of a 3D full car model. This method looks nice, but we can ask again, will it work in really engineering cases? And the answer is unfortunately no, because I found that this method is too sensitive to the error of measuring the time lag for acceleration subtraction. Even a tiny error of time lag will make this method ineffective. As you can see, if we subtract the acceleration responses with 0.99 delta t, the peaks of the bridge frequencies are invisible as a result, let alone the 0.9 delta t. However, in real engineering practices, such a tiny errors are inevitable. So why would this happen? I think that it is because for the vehicular sensing approach, the signal noise ratio is too low. So if we take the bridge vibration component in the vehicle responses as the signal, and we take the vehicle responses caused by the road roughness as the noise, we can find that even if we reduce the noise to a large extent with the proposed subtraction method, the remaining noise is still much larger than the signal. Finally, I carried out some experimental studies on a real bridge with a real car. The bridge is a sea-cross bridge connecting a harbor with Shanghai city. There are many heavy trucks on the bridge, along with sea wind and waves. So I think the bridge is fully excited. The vehicle used in the experiment is shown here. It is instrumented with 8 accelerometers. And there are 2 extra accelerometers deployed directly on the bridge when the vehicle parks. I did this to compare the vehicular sensing approach with the traditional structure health monitor approach. And these pictures display details about the installation of accelerometers on the vehicle. These accelerometers are installed with a magnetic pad or strong stickers. And this picture shows how the 2 extra accelerometers are placed on the bridge. So in total, I carried out 45 experimental cases. And these cases are the combination of 3 vehicle scenarios and 5 different experimental sites. Among these 45 cases, I picked several cases to do some preliminary analysis. The first analysis is to investigate the effects of engine vibration on the vehicular sensing. I did a power spectral analysis on the acceleration of a vehicle when the vehicle parks on the road with engine on. And I found that the engine vibration has the frequency of around 30 Hertz. And the engine vibration will not affect the modal identification of bridges because frequency of bridges are usually smaller than 20 Hertz. The second analysis is to investigate the effects of the vehicle's suspension system and the tire. I did an impact test on the vehicle by letting the vehicle mount a curb. Results of the power spectral analysis show that the frequency of the suspension system is around 2 to 4 Hertz, and the frequency of the tire is about 10 to 15 Hertz. And they are actually overlapped with the frequencies of bridges. So I think the suspension system and the tire may affect the modal identification of bridges. The third analysis is to investigate the effects of bridge vibration. I compared the acceleration of a vehicle moving on the road and the vehicle moving on the bridge with the same speed. Results indicate that there is no recognizable difference between the on-road and on-bridge signals. So I think this means the bridge vibration components in the vehicle responses are very weak. The last analysis is to investigate the effects of road roughness on the vehicular sensing. I compared the acceleration of the vehicle parking on the bridge and the vehicle moving on the bridge. First, the results of power spectral analysis show that when the instrumented vehicle parks on the bridge, power spectral density of the vehicle acceleration and the bridge acceleration share some common peaks regarding to bridge frequencies. I think this means it is feasible to identify bridge frequencies from vehicle acceleration when the vehicle parks on the bridge, because when the vehicle parks on the bridge, there is no road roughness effect. Second, the comparison between the magnitude of the acceleration of a moving vehicle and a parking vehicle indicates that bridge vibration components in the vehicle responses are much smaller than the vehicle responses caused by road roughness. As you can see, the magnitude of the vehicle acceleration caused by the bridge vibration is approximately only one-tenth of the vehicle acceleration caused by road roughness. So, in conclusion, based on my studies on the vehicular sensing approach, I personally think that bridge modal identification using the vehicular sensing approach is very challenging. In real engineering practices, this approach may encounter some significant difficulties. The first difficulty is that the ultra-low signal noise ratio. For vehicular sensing approach, the signal we need, that is the bridge vibration component in the vehicle responses, is significantly smaller than the road roughness effects. So it is very difficult to extract such a small signal from the vehicle responses. The second difficulty results from the complicated mechanism of vehicles. In the theoretical investigation or numerical simulation, we always use a linear vehicle model, but real vehicle is complicated, is a complicated and nonlinear machine. So for the vehicle sensing approach, the vehicle is actually a nonlinear sensor and a filter to measure the bridge vibration. And this will absolutely increase the difficulty of signal processing. because of nonlinearity or something. The third difficulty is that it is also the inherent difficulty of the vehicular sensing, is that the vehicular sensing signal is usually very short. For example, if the vehicle moves at a speed of 2 meters per second, I think that is slow enough to pass a 20-meter long bridge span. Then the vehicular sensing signal will only last for about 10 seconds. Using such a short signal to do modal identification or parameter identification is very difficult, because in such a case, the frequency resolution is limited. And my future work may include the following 3 aspects. First, I will try some advanced signal processing method, aiming at the difficulties of the vehicular sensing approach. I will try the weak signal extraction and bland signal separation for extracting the weak bridge vibrating components from the vehicular sensing signals. Second, I will try to find an alternative platform for mobile sensing. Here I use the mobile sensing to change the bridge, the vehicular sensing, because I think a platform like robots can also be used to carry sensors. For example, we can design a robot that can move along the guardrail of a bridge, and then we can put some sensors on the robot to do the mobile sensing. Also, we can use some small wheel robot to carry the sensors. Using the robots can avoid some inherent difficulties of using vehicles, such as road roughness, nonlinear suspension system, and some speed limits. Third, I will try a new approach to do bridge structural assessment. With mobile sensing approach, massive bridges of the same type, can be fast inspected, which enables the comparison between these bridges for structural assessment. At last, as a guest student, I would like to spend a few extra minutes to introduce my domestic university. Tongji University is located in Shanghai, a modern and vibrant metropolis in China. And Tongji is one of the best universities in China. I've heard that people in Zurich speak German. An interesting fact is that Tongji is actually founded by a German doctor 100 years ago. Even the name of my university, Tongji, is a phonetic approximation of the German word Deutsch. I hope my pronunciation is right. And the College of Civil Engineering at Tongji University is considered to be the best in China. We have various advanced facilities to do research on structural engineering, such as world-class wind tunnels and shaking tables. We are also engaging in many important civil engineering projects in China. And the research group I belong to is led by Professor Sun Liming. Our group has 7 faculties and over 30 students. We focus on structural health monitoring, vibration control, and seismic engineering. I think it's very similar to the focus of Professor Chen's. And we sincerely welcome academic communication and collaboration. If you are interested, you can contact me. And that is all of my presentation. Thanks for your listening, and I'm looking forward to your questions and comments. Thank you.